November 14th, 1943. Early morning light fractures through the mist over Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. The roar of radial engines shakes the jungle below as a formation of F4U Corsairs cuts through the sky, wings glinting silver in the sun. You can almost feel the heat rising from the dense canopy, the scent of salt and smoke hanging in the air. Below, Japanese Zero pilots hover over the ocean in tight, mocking formations. Lieutenant Akira Sato squints through the canopy, disbelief etched across his face. "Those monstrosities," he mutters under his breath. The F4U looks awkward from afar, bulky, lumbering, almost comical next to the sleek, elegant lines of the Zero. Its long nose and bent wings make it seem ill-suited for dogfighting, and yet it is flying toward them, engines growling like a predator closing in. On the American side, Commander James H. flatly grips the throttle of his Corsair, every vibration of the engine vibrating through his gloves. Sweat drips down his temple, salt from the ocean on his lips, and still he smirks. He's flown against Zeros before, and he knows something the enemy does not. His squadron's Corsairs aren't built for elegance. They're built for one thing: speed, climb, killing. The Zeros descend, confident enough to laugh in the wind. Their laughter echoes across the blue Pacific, carrying arrogance like a banner in the sky. "Watch them wobble," says one Japanese pilot. "They'll never match our turns." But flatly signals his wingmen, and suddenly the Corsairs peel, climbing sharply in perfect unison, engines screaming, propellers slicing the air. The Zeros' laughter falters. They weren't expecting this. Up here above the clouds, every second feels like a lifetime. You hear the clicks of machine guns, the faint pop of distant tracers, and then the realization that these planes, this clumsy Corsair, can dive, climb, and hit harder than anything the Japanese have ever seen. It's not just a plane, it's a revelation. And the men who mocked it are about to learn that lesson the hardest way possible. From below, the jungle watches silently, the river shimmering like liquid steel. And somewhere in the chaos, a single Zero begins to falter, engines screaming against gravity, pilots' eyes widening as the Corsair swoops above. The first loss of many is about to mark the turning point of the air war over Guadalcanal. Mini cliffhanger. One pilot's confidence is about to crash into the reality of Flatley's plan. Will the Zeros survive their first encounter with the Corsairs? Full fury, the sky over Guadalcanal is a chaotic ballet of steel and smoke. Tracers streak like angry fireflies, and the roar of engines drowns out everything else. You can almost feel the vibration in your chest, the tension in the air as two worlds collide. Lieutenant Akira Sato banks sharply, trying to shake the Corsair on his tail. He had trained to fight Zeros, not this. Not these beasts with stubby wings and monstrous engines that screamed upward faster than any maneuver he knew. His comrades are scattered across the horizon, some already spiraling down in smoke, metal twisted from bursts of .50 caliber fire. Flatley watches the carnage unfold with clinical precision. "Keep your eyes on the enemy, not the plane," he mutters into his radio. Wingmen respond with tight formations, each maneuver exploiting the Corsair's superior climb rate and dive speed. The Zeros had mocked them, laughed at their supposed clumsiness. But now, from above, those same pilots are fighting for survival, disbelief painted on every face behind the canopy glass. On the ocean below, Japanese sailors catch glimpses of the battle. Smoke curls upward, black against the pale morning sun. Reports crackle across the airwaves. "Losses mounting, heavy fire impossible." Even seasoned commanders whisper among themselves, their voices tinged with panic. Could these aircraft really be that effective? Could the Americans have something they never anticipated? Back in the air, the Corsairs slice through the formation. Flatley orders a sharp climb, engine roaring like a beast unleashed. Zeros attempt evasive maneuvers, banking hard, flipping, diving, but the Corsairs climb faster, anticipate every turn, every gap in formation. One by one, the Japanese fighters are driven back or forced down, caught off guard by a machine they had once mocked. And in that moment, mockery turns to panic. Confidence gives way to fear. The very air above Guadalcanal seems to hum with the realization. The Corsair is not just a plane, it is a predator, and now the hunter is coming for them. Mini cliffhanger. As more Zeros fall or retreat, one pilot faces a choice: fight the impossible or dive into the chaos and pray for survival. What will he do next? Mid-morning, November 14th, 1943. The sun has burned through the early mist, casting harsh light over Henderson Field and the jagged jungle canopy beyond. The sky is littered with contrails and smoke trails, a battlefield painted in fire and motion. You can almost hear the rhythm of adrenaline. Engines screaming, machine guns rattling, men shouting over the radio static. Commander flatly peers over the edge of his cockpit canopy. Below, Zeros dive in a desperate attempt to regain the initiative. But the Corsairs, climbing like falcons, anticipate every maneuver. Their superior rate of climb turns the tables again and again. A Japanese pilot pulls a sharp bank, trying to lure Flatley into a dogfight, but he doesn't bite. He keeps the altitude advantage, circling, striking, vanishing in a flash of silver and fire. One after another, the enemy falters. Lieutenant Sato watches his comrades spiral down, their planes smoking, engines failing. He grips the control stick until his knuckles whiten. The arrogance with which they had approached this fight, mocking these clumsy Americans, has evaporated. Disbelief creeps in, then terror. How can a plane so awkward-looking, so seemingly cumbersome, dismantle formations built for finesse and agility? Flatley's voice comes over the radio, calm but commanding. Form up, don't chase, use your energy advantage, hit and disappear. Every Corsair executes with precision, each maneuver exploiting speed, firepower, and climb, the exact traits the Zeros had laughed at. Below, Japanese squadron leader Lieutenant Colonel Minoru Genda scans the wreckage. He has flown hundreds of combat missions, seen dozens of American aircraft, and yet he cannot believe what he is witnessing. The Corsairs are relentless, methodical, and lethal. Losses are mounting at an alarming rate. Pilots who had mocked the plane in confidence now dive for cover, desperate to survive against a weapon they never thought possible. The tide of the air battle has shifted. The sky, once a theater of Japanese dominance, now feels like a hunting ground. Flatley and his pilots have seized the initiative, proving the Corsairs' deadly potential beyond any doubt. Mini cliffhanger. With the first wave decimated, Japanese command faces a grim question. Can they regroup? Or has the Corsair irreversibly changed the rules of engagement over Guadalcanal? Late afternoon, November 14th, 1943. The sun slants low over Guadalcanal, casting long shadows across the jungle and the battered airstrip below. Smoke rises from the wreckage of downed Zeros, curling into the sky like dark warnings. You can almost feel the tension in the air, the bitter mix of fear, exhaustion, and disbelief among the survivors. Lieutenant Sato sits in a makeshift field tent, his uniform streaked with sweat and grime. He stares at a map of the battle, hands trembling slightly. We underestimated them, he whispers, voice tight. Around him, fellow pilots nod silently. The laughter that had once filled the air is gone, replaced by a stark, unsettling silence. The Corsair was not just another plane, it was a revelation, a machine that had turned arrogance into catastrophe. Flatley's squadron returns to Henderson Field, engines ticking down, propellers slowly ceasing their roar. The men step out, faces smeared with dirt and oil, eyes bright with the satisfaction of survival and triumph. They do not yet know the full scale of their impact, but the Japanese pilots do. Reports of staggering losses have reached every command post, and the tailies of the clumsy, unwieldy Corsair have spread like wildfire. Across the ocean, Japanese commanders reassess everything. Tactics, strategies, even the concept of air superiority over the Solomon Islands, all must be reconsidered. One by one, the pilots who mocked the Corsair come to the same grim realization. The Americans had not only built a plane capable of killing, but they had trained their pilots to exploit every advantage it offered. And in the skies above Guadalcanal, the next day begins with a new reality. The Corsair is no longer a curiosity to be dismissed. It is the weapon that changed the rules of engagement. Japanese pilots who once laughed now fly with caution, aware that every climb, every dive, every turn could be their last. Mini cliffhanger. As dusk falls, a single Corsair patrol rises above the jungle, hunting silently. Somewhere below, a Japanese Zero hides in the shadows, unaware that the hunter has already learned its favorite tricks. Who will strike first, and will the lesson of the Corsair finally be understood before more lives are lost? November 15th, 1943. Dawn breaks over Guadalcanal, painting the jungle in pale gold. The air is heavy with humidity, the scent of salt and oil lingering from yesterday's battles. You can almost hear the jungle itself holding its breath, waiting. Japanese pilots gather near their damaged airstrips, faces pale, uniforms rumpled, the weight of disbelief and fear pressing down. Lieutenant Sato watches a Corsair streak overhead, engines screaming like a predator, and for the first time he feels a chill that has nothing to do with the wind. This machine, this so-called clumsy plane, has rewritten the rules of the sky. What was once mockery has become awe. Flatley briefs his squadron quietly in the hangar, voice low but steady. Every engagement counts. Don't underestimate them, but remember what we've learned. Fly smart, hit hard, and above all, survive. His men nod, knowing the Corsair is more than metal and machine. It's a force multiplier, a tool shaped by ingenuity, skill, and relentless practice. Reports filter in from the Pacific. Zeros have been decimated, formations scattered, morale shaken. The Japanese Air Force realizes they cannot approach the Corsair as they once did. They will need new tactics, new strategies, or risk annihilation each time the American fighter ascends into their skis. And above it all, the Corsair's patrol, climbing and diving, engines screaming a warning across the Solomon Islands. Arrogance will be punished. The pilots who laughed yesterday are now cautious, calculating every move, haunted by the speed, power, and precision of their adversary. As you watch this story unfold, you can almost feel the shift, the moment when disbelief turns into understanding, mockery into respect, and the impossible becomes real. The Corsair did not just fight the Japanese forces over Guadalcanal. It rewrote the narrative of air combat in the Pacific. Mini cliffhanger. Somewhere beyond the horizon, more battles await. But one truth has been cemented in fire and smoke. The Corsair is a predator, and those who underestimated it will never forget.